Motor Racing Network. It's the NASCAR Cup Series.
Let's get a big thumbs up. Get ready to rock and roll past the race cars today, pal. Cool, boys. Let's execute. Have a good day.
Today, practice for the Viva Mexico 250 from Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Presented on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Powerful and fuel efficient. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store.
For the first time since 1958, the NASCAR Cup Series is venturing out of the contiguous 48 United States, racing internationally. We have ventured south of the border to Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for a road course race like none other. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mexico City, Mexico. Motor Racing Network on the air with NASCAR Cup Series practice for Sunday's Viva Mexico 250. Mike Bagley alongside Alex Hayden topside. And Alex, it's been a long time coming, but it's finally here that the Cup Series has ventured out of its borders.
Yeah, you mentioned going all the way back to 1958, the last time the NASCAR Cup Series ran a points-paying race outside of the United States. That was up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Lee Petty, NASCAR Hall of Famer, got the win. Incidentally, his son, Richard Petty, had his very first career Cup Series start in that particular race.
And we've stayed inside of the United States. Now, we have had exhibition races that have been held outside of the United States. We've been to Japan. We've been to Australia. However, this is the first points-paying race since that time. And, Alex, we're getting to the crunch part, that is, of the regular season, to where as we click off races week after week after week, the points begin to matter more. Those that are getting them and those that are wanting them, but not. And now we come to a road course where we'll see a different skill set on display in a crucial portion of the season.
Yeah, we will. And when we run this Gen 7 car on road courses, which has been the last handful of years, William Byron has been the best or tied for the best as far as how many wins in this particular car. Byron's had 2 wins on road courses in the last 8 starts. Chris Buescher, however, you might not necessarily think of Chris Buescher as a road racing ace, but in this next-gen car, well, Chris Buescher is the best. He's got the best average finish of everybody. So you're right. There's a lot on the line for a lot of these drivers, especially those that are already not locked into the playoffs and playoff eligible. But this is a golden opportunity. It's a brand new venue. It's new to everybody, so everybody's starting from scratch.
There is one driver that will not be experiencing Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the very first time, and that is a driver that has won 3 times this year on the NASCAR Cup Series. For more on that, here's Halstead, Pennsylvania's Steve Post.
Denny Hamlin is not here. His fiancee Jordan had a baby, I believe it was yesterday, and so Denny is home tending to matters there as he has made the decision to not race here. So filling in for him is Ryan Truex, and this has been the design over the last month as Denny has been on baby watch. Ryan does a lot of development for the team, does a lot of the sim work for the team for Joe Gibbs Racing, and so he was the natural pick to do this. He even did a test session in this generation of race car a couple of weeks ago. So Ryan Truex is climbed aboard the car. Had a chance to talk to Ryan earlier today, and he said really it's kind of a blessing that they have these practice sessions. So they have 3 sets of tires in these practice sessions, and he can go out and learn about the race car, and it's not a matter of jumping in the race car for the Coca-Cola 600 or the Nashville race. He can get acclimated to this race car all weekend long with this practice session, with the spotters, with the crew chief, and with everyone else. And this race car was set up, and these cars, if you remember last week, were shipped from Michigan, so it was set with Denny set up. Spent some time with Chris Gale, the crew chief, and they felt like around the body, Ryan was going to be fine. They said they might, after practice, need to shave a little bit out of the seat cushions just to give him a little bit more width. Their concern was the brake pedals and the gas pedals, and that Ryan's legs were significantly shorter than Denny's. What they did about an hour or 2 before practice, they had Ryan sit in the car. The interior guy was in there with him, and they have moved the gas and brake pedals so that they fit Ryan. They even said if this was an oval track, they could probably go with what they had, but because this is a road course and you're constantly in and out of all the brake pedals, they wanted to make sure it's perfectly set up for Ryan Truex. So Ryan has climbed aboard the race car. We're less than a minute away from these cars rolling on the racetrack. He'll be the 3rd car to hit the speedway. Yahoo colors on the Toyota, and we'll see how Ryan Truex does. There's no pressure on him. Martin Truex's brother, they talked this week. Martin is 1 for 1 at this racetrack. He won one of the old Nationwide Xfinity Series races back in 2005. He said to his brother, no pressure, us Truexes are 1 for 1 at that racetrack. You need to keep it at 2 for 2.
We'll see how he does as the green light goes on and the track is open for practice as the NASCAR Cup Series cars pull out of their garage stalls and onto this 2.43-mile road circuit. Brad Gilley's also down in the garage area. Brad, the excitement level we've had all morning leading up to this moment has been palpable, but right now the engines are fired and cars are beginning to roll.
That's exactly right, Alex. I'm standing next to Ryan Preece. He pulls out of his garage stall. Also pulling out of his garage stall, teammate Chris Buescher. Kyle Busch now just driving by me. Another car pulling out of his garage stall is another one that's actually had some adjustments made to the interior, and that would be the number 48 of Alex Bowman. You might remember last week in Michigan, as the Motor Racing Network was broadcasting that race, Alex Bowman had a huge crash with his car going nose first into the outside safer barrier. Well, Alex has been a little bit rough this week, and they've been trying to get him comfortable in the car. I was watching he and crew chief Blake Harris and the entire team trying to get Alex comfortable, pulling the headrest down, working on seat inserts, different things like that to try and get him comfortable. Should they need it, Anthony Alfredo is on standby. But as you know, this is a great opportunity race for Bowman as well. His last trip to Victory Lane came on the streets of Chicago. He's coming here to Mexico City, hoping to lock his way into the playoffs, but Bowman's still feeling a little sore from that last crash at Michigan last week.
As the cars are on the racetrack, as they begin to circulate around, most of them are coming up to speed. Yes, you've been in a simulator, you've been on the computer, but there's nothing, Mike Bagley, like getting on the track for the very first time.
And that's what exactly is happening. As everybody now is pulling onto the road course, that affords us the opportunity to take a swing around this racetrack. We have all of our turn announcers in place for this practice session this afternoon, and they will have every corner covered. And as the first cars take the quote-unquote green flag and get their first lap in, that would be Kyle Larson. Let's indeed take a swing around this racetrack. This front straightaway is the second longest straightaway in all of NASCAR. The longest is Talladega Superspeedway at 4,000 feet. This front stretch here is 3,937 feet. In comparison to next weekend at Pocono, that front stretch is 3,740. They will race down that front straightaway from left to right on your radio dial, and they will then come into the view of Dave Moody of Barrie, Vermont, who's positioned in turn 1.
Thank you, Mike Bagley. Good afternoon, everybody. Indeed, that long front straightaway will allow these drivers to reach absolute top speed. And then at the end of it all, they will 2-foot the brakes, downshift to first gear for a very sharp right-hand 90-degree turn number 1. If anything, it's banked opposite of where it should be. It is virtually flat, no handling help at all. Then it's about a 45-degree left-hander very quickly, then a long sweeping right-hand turn number 3. I've already seen something, Mike, before we go to green. I've seen a driver getting a standing ovation for completing a pace lap under caution before the green flag flies. That driver, of course, Daniel Suarez. He is Elvis this weekend here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Now let's go down to turn 4. Kurt Becker from Altamont, Illinois.
And thank you, Dave. As the field comes out of turn number 3, it's on to another straightaway at that point, except this one isn't near the length of the home stretch or the back stretch. This is the short stretch, about a quarter mile or so. Cars will get up to speeds of maybe 150 miles per hour, but then it's on the brakes and it's downshifting when they come to the end of this straight right in front of our broadcast position. The preferred line, driver's right down next to the red and white rumble strips that line the inside of what is turn number 4. One driver already having a problem on this end of the racetrack, and that is Daniel Suarez. We were just talking about him. Also John Hunter Nemechek as well. Here's what we mean by having a problem. You carry a lot of speed off that short straight, and sometimes you don't make the entrance to turn number 4. The good news is there is a broad runoff area that is paved, and if you get all the way into the turn before you have your problem, there's a grassy apron. The driver's left plenty of room, especially during practice, to accommodate. After they leave turn 4, the cars will head to our Dan Hubbard of Rancho Cucamonga, California.
Well, thank you, Kurt. Good afternoon, everybody. I've got an excellent view of the S's here at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. That is the left-hand turn 5, the right-hand turn 6, and the left-hand turn 7. As fast as I can say it, that's how fast the field can negotiate those turns. They come very quick, in very quick succession, very close together. Not like the S's at Circuit of the Americas where they're stretched out. No, these are very quick. And the task for the driver is to just hit his marks, take the proper line through these corners, and don't make a mistake that would hurt your lap time. Side-by-side competition on Sunday will be very difficult to do, but you never know. Right now, here at the S's, just get through it quickly and motor your way off turn 7, wind it out in second gear, and get to turn 8. That's where they come into the view of our Tim Catafamo from Marlboro, New Jersey.
Thank you very much, Dan Hubbard, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm overlooking turns 8, 9, 10, and 11. There's a series of technical turns that the drivers will have to make once they get to turn number 8. Turn number 8 is a very quick right-hand corner. Then they make a left-hand turn in turn 9. There's red and white curbing that lines either end of those two corners. And then when they come off of turn number 9, they've got some room to race and to really spread out. They get to a kink in turn 10, and then that sets them up for a short straightaway, or a short run, that is, down to the right-hander in turn 11. To pick up on something that Kurt Becker just mentioned, there is paved runoff area as well at the exit of turn 8 and the exit of turn 9. Already in these last couple of minutes since the start of this practice session, I have seen Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Ross Chastain both go off into the runoff area, have to come to a complete stop, and then get back on the throttle and motor on. I expect that's going to be the case as we get later on in this practice session, and especially in the race on Sunday. But that's all be looking over here in on a scissor lift at the exit of turn number 9, looking down to turn 10 and 11. Once they leave my spot, they race their way towards Carmel, Indiana's Chris Wellner.
Buenos dias, Tim Catalfamo. Good day, everyone, from high atop the grandstands here in the stadium section, also known as Foro Sol. This venue was built as primarily a concert venue and athletic facility here at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in 1992. The stands have been relatively packed most of the day today. It's a U-shaped kind of arena as the cars funnel off that 45-degree right-hander of turn 11. They'll shoot down a little small straightaway into the very slow first gear left-hander of turn 12. Cars are creeping here. This is painfully slow, but a lot of action, as we saw in the NASCAR Mexico Series race, has been in this section of the racetrack. It's a quick left-hander, then a quick burst to the right, where there's a lot of curving to use, but you don't need to go off as far as driver's right in turn 13 because there's a tire bundle that has caught several drivers earlier today. We mentioned about runoffs. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has already ventured his way through that earlier in this session as the drivers have to negotiate this very technical and the slowest part of the racetrack here. We'll monitor them through turns 12 and 13, and then a very unique entrance to turn 14. They will split the grandstands and go under the awning to turn 14, which is part of the Periolata curve, all the way around to get back to the start-finish line into the view of Alex Hayden and Mike Bagley.
And as they come off turn number 15, these cars will scream down the front stretch here, which is basically a canyon. There is massive covered grandstands down to driver's left, the length of this front stretch. On the right side is the pit garage area. Above them, in the same structure, are all kinds of luxury suites and boxes. So it is truly remarkable scene here on the front side of this Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Opening laps of practice are underway. John Hunter Nemechek is a likable young man, but here in Mexico City today may have become public enemy number 1. He got into the back of Daniel Suarez and sent him off course over in turns 7 and 8. Everybody was able to grab a gear and pop the clutch and pull back out on the circuit. Chase Briscoe is the fastest right now here in practice. Austin Cindric is second. Ty Gibbs is third, Chris Buescher fourth, and Joey Logano rounds out the top 5 early on in practice. From Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Continuing round the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez here in Mexico City, and just a little bit of a spin out of the final corner for the number 51 car, as we are 39 minutes left in this session. And we're just having a look at a replay of the 34. And going under the stadium, and here is the replay of the spin of the 51. Let's go back now.
We welcome you back here to Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez here in downtown Mexico City. Some overcast skies for the better part of the day. Just a few moments ago, we've had some brilliant sunshine. 72 degrees here in downtown Mexico City. A lot of people think, Mike, well, we're in Central America. It should be very hot. We're getting closer to the equator, but we are up there in elevation. Mexico City sits 7,315 feet above sea level. That is, 6,000 or so feet more than the highest track we race at in the United States, which is Las Vegas.
Well, just think about it. Denver, Colorado is a little over 5,000, right? That's the Mile High City. We are way up here. Now, what that does, that creates a couple of sets of challenges. It creates challenges for the human body, because as the higher you go in altitude, the thinner the oxygen gets, and it's scarce. It's still here. We're all breathing. Well, the engines have to breathe. They need as much oxygen as possible for the cooling components of the engine. So while the human body can only take so much before you get winded and get dried out and dehydrated, these engines, Alex, they need a little something to help in that department as far as keeping these engines cool in these very thin oxygen climate that we find ourselves in.
Is just part of the task that these teams are up against here in racing here south of the borders. We continue on here in practice. Steve Post, you open things up with the changes and some of the challenges with the Ryan Truex car subbing for Denny Hamlin this weekend, who is home with his family. What's the latest now for Truex?
Ryan Truex went out and completed a number of laps out there on the racetrack. The first problem they had is they were struggling and could not get radio contact with him. So he went out and got a few laps, kind of shook the car down and brought it in. The first thing he said is the steering wheel is too low. So they're in there working on the car now to get the steering wheel raised up so it's not down in his lap. And then finally Chris Gale said, well, tell me about your race car. And he said, I think we're all right. It just kind of wanders around now as far as loose and tight. And right now, but it's so early, I'm not 100% sure. So they're taking the time now to make these adjustments. This is a long practice session in terms of what we do in NASCAR Cup Series racing, making those adjustments. Crew members getting the air pressure adjustments. They've seen some of the telemetry to see what the car is doing. They're going to make some adjustments, get everything adjusted in the cockpit of the car, and Ryan Truex is going to go back out on the racetrack. In fact, they're putting the window net up on the Yahoo Toyota right now.
Another driver that has spent time on the racetrack but has come to the garage area after having a spin on the racetrack is Noah Gragson. Brad Gilly, what's the story there?
Yeah, Mike, he's got a lot of left side damage. Not damage that is necessarily going to mean they have to change components on the race car, but I watched him come into the garage. His left front was flat. When he made it back around to his garage stall, they have the car jacked up on the left side right now, and you can see some damage to the left front fender, the left rear quarter panel. Basically, whatever he hit, he pancaked it. So they're going to make adjustments, make sure everything is still right on the race car, and send him back out. But I'm seeing a lot of teams starting to come in now to the garage to make their adjustments after they find out what they have. One thing I've heard on the radio, and we can only hear a limited number of drivers right now, but some of them are saying it doesn't really feel like we have that much lap time drop off as the tires are starting to wear out.
Problem here in turn number 11, Brad. We've got Carson Hocevar, who stuffed it off the runoff to driver's left, right basically parallel to the grandstands here in the stadium section, made heavy contact with the left side of his Chevrolet. He gets it fired back up, but a scary moment. Big lockup for Carson Hocevar, and it looks like he'll limp it here in turn number 12.
Got a little back-end damage of that Chevrolet in what was a very weird type of set of circumstances right there. It happened going into the stadium section, Chris. Good news for him. He's able to drive it away, but he does have damage on the backside of that race car.
He does, Mike, and he was able to drive it back. Just clip that left side and the left rear of the wall. There's kind of a tire bundle, again, a good 30 feet off the racing line. As you barrel down that short straightaway to turn 11, we've seen a number of drivers lock up the left front tire as they try to get it turned, as well as the right front to make that right-hand corner, and Carson Hocevar just completely missed it. Started to loop the car around and then slap the wall there to driver's left off the racing line. So the first one that's made contact, but not the only one that's missed the entrance to turn number 11.
Simply part of practice. Figure out where the lines are. Figure out where your line as a driver is and where you have to brake and downshift. Fortunately for Carson Hocevar, the damage does not look to be too terribly serious. From Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Yeah, absolutely. So under caution here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez after Carson Hocevar off at turn 11, able to get back underway, and we will wait for the circuit to go green and once more, as it's currently Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Ty Gibbs, your top three, with Chris Buescher and Joey Logano rounding out your top five. Of course, the big news story this weekend is that Denny Hamlin will not be racing at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and it's Ryan Truex back in NASCAR to take the number 11 seat. Catherine Legg is also in the 78, but let's hopefully go back to MRN as the track goes green.
Back here as we work the caution flag for Carson Hocevar, who went into the tire barrier on entrance to turn number 11. They have gotten that car. He was able to back it up and drive it away. Just minimal damage, Mike, to the back end of his race car.
And I know that they're thankful for that. There's nothing that won't buff out, as they say. At least they're not replacing a clip or anything like that, or going to the backup car. So we're going back under the green flag. Track cleanup is all buttoned up. Right now, Chase Briscoe, fastest of everybody. He turned in a speed of 92.547 seconds, or hang on a second, 134.136 seconds. Minutes and seconds, 92.547 in the miles per hour department. So does take him a while, minute and a half to get around this racetrack, but Chase Briscoe's the fastest of them all. Austin Cindric second, Ty Gibbs is third, Chris Buescher, Joey Logano rounding out the top five, Ross Chastain, Josh Berry, Daniel Suarez, Todd Gilliland, and Michael McDowell round out the top 10.
Michael McDowell has experience at this race course. He won a Grand Am road race back here years ago, back in November of 2005 to be exact. So McDowell knows this circuit quite well. You mentioned in November of 2005 to be exact, so McDowell knows this circuit quite well. You mentioned Daniel Suarez, 8th best right now, Mike, on the leaderboard. Brad Gilly, what's it like hanging around his garage area, knowing that Suarez is the hometown hero?
You can just tell this is a big atmosphere and a big deal for them. You know, like Moody was talking about, Suarez comes around and you see the crowd cheer. We can see the front stretch grandstands from here. Kind of the same thing. Right now, there's just a limited number of people in the garage, but the people who are in the garage, there are a lot of them hanging out here near Suarez pit. I can tell you that they've got the car jacked up. They're working on it. Matt Swiderski talking back and forth with Suarez, trying to figure out what he needs. So a little bit of work under the hood, a little bit of work underneath the car. On both sides of that, they can make suspension adjustments, and I'll talk to Swiderski here in just a short moment once Daniel backs out and see what we can find out about what's happening with his race car.
You know, Dave Moody, you joked earlier about, you know, he's Elvis. I think he could be president, governor, emperor.
And here in turn number one with a cardboard Daniel Suarez stand-up and got a standing ovation. They'll applaud anything that has to do with Daniel Suarez. They love their Danny here in Mexico City. And if he wins this race, oh my, what a party we will all have.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't pull for drivers. We're as impartial as anybody ever gets, but I would love to see that type of a celebration of what it would be like.
They would rip this place apart. This is a very pro Daniel Suarez crowd. And earlier this week, I spent some time with Ryan Blaney. And Ryan says, I can tell you what I'm not going to do. I am not going to lay a finger on that 99 car, which obviously is Daniel's car number. He said, if anything, he's going to point out the driver's side window and window net and wave him by. Go ahead and take the spot. I'm not laying a fender to him. We don't want a repeat of the Kyle Busch, Adrian Fernandez dust-up of years ago.
No, that got a little sketchy down there. I was working pit road when Kyle Busch got into the back of Adrian Fernandez from Mexico, turned him around from the lead in that Xfinity Series race, and on pit road the fans were not happy, and they decided they were going to voice it by chucking cups of drink and whatever the beverage was, but they were dropping stuff from the grandstands all over pit lane, all on top of us. We had to take cover down there. That was a bad move, but we don't need that happening again.
And what we're referring to, in case you're new to the fold, the NASCAR Xfinity Series race here back up until 2008, and it was in one of those races where Kyle laid the fender to Adrian, and let's just say the fans were not happy about it whatsoever. So basically the message is, Paul's off, the hometown guy. Right now on the racetrack, everybody just trying to complete their practice session. We're 28 minutes to go. They're going to get a 50-minute practice session here. Then we're going to take about a 30-minute break. Then we're going to come back for 25 minutes more. In total, NASCAR Cup Series teams will have 75 minutes of practice before we qualify tomorrow for the Viva Mexico 250.
Drivers in the field here this weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series. A lot of these drivers have won on road courses throughout their tenure here in the Cup Series. But when you look at the four Hendrick Motorsports drivers, they represent 16 road course wins, paced by Chase Elliott with 7. Kyle Larson has got 6 of those, William Byron 2, and the Chicago Street Race win last year for Alex Bowman makes up the last one. But Steve Post, as we sit here early in the first of 2 practice sessions, Kyle Larson is the best of the Hendrick 4, but he's only 12th.
Yeah, and they've got a little work to do on that car. What they're concerned in is just the braking points on the car. He feels like the handling is pretty good on the car, but right now they're just a little bit concerned they're not able to get down into the corner, especially number 1 where they need to get to, and then working through the other parts of the course. So they are working on the brake package. They're going to send Kyle back out. They feel the balance of the race car is pretty good. Did have a chance to talk to some of the brake experts from Exis Brakes this morning, and this track is different in that the challenge down in front of Dave Moody is the single biggest braking zone in all of NASCAR. So they use the brake the hardest there. In fact, they scrub anywhere from 120 to 130 miles per hour off the car down there in front of Dave. But overall, there's other tracks like Watkins Glen that overall are worse on the brakes. So it's a balance. How do you get the brakes so they're really, really good? These are the largest and most beefed up brake packages that they have. How do you get them good down there, but keep them so that they're cooled down and decent for the rest of the course? And right now, that's the challenge that they're working on for Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels and that crew working on the car. Does not seem like a hair on fire issue. Seems like some subtle things that they're working on to try to get that car to brake just a little bit better for Kyle Larson.
And Kyle Larson is 13th on the leaderboard right now. He's about a half a second off the fast time that has been set by Chase Briscoe. On the racetrack right now, handful of drivers negotiating various corners. One driver in Ricky Stenhouse Jr. having a problem in turn 4, got a little off course, and was able to get back out onto the racetrack and resume his lap and try to get some more speed in that number 47 Fun Pops car this weekend here in Mexico City.
Brad Gilly, Daniel Suarez is motoring along here in this opening practice session. What's the latest there?
Well, Alex, I can tell you he wants a little more drive off. A lot of these corners here, when things start to get tight and technical, are first gear corners. He wants to be able to hammer back down onto the gas and get some drive off. They're actually making wholesale changes in the rear end of this race car. With the independent rear suspensions that they have in these Gen 7 Cup cars, they actually have a coilover system, not a separate shock and spring, but a coilover system. They're changing the coilover system on the rears of his car. They're also putting sticker tires. They made a lot of adjustments to the front shocks on his race car as well to see what they can do with help with handling. The good thing for Suarez on all of this, his car's not really slow. He's actually in the upper of a lot of the drivers out there when it comes to overall speed. They're trying to find as much as they can. So once they get all of this stuff changed, they're going to put some fresh sticker tires on it, and they will send him back out.
And Daniel is 8th right now on the leaderboard. He is about maybe 4/10 of a second behind the race leader.
Daniel Suarez has won on a road course in his Cup Series career. He did that out in wine country in Sonoma, California. From Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Do you
this portion of the racetrack and really cut some time and acceleration? So it'll be interesting to see, but NASCAR is going to be keeping an eye on this. If you touch that yellow line, or if you get on top of that yellow line with the tire, that is considered infringing on the track limits, and there will be a penalty. There's a bit of a joker lane later on in the lap just beyond this that you can pull over and stop, much like we had at COTA. I think Bubba Wallace had to go into that joker lane at COTA and stop. And so that's what the drivers have asked for. Okay, we have track limits at some racetracks. We can't get away from having that. We know that's going to be part of the deal. But we don't want to have to go down pit road and do a pass-through. That's too big of a penalty for such a small gain if I were to infringe on the track limit here. So they've got the joker lane. Drivers in NASCAR have collaborated to come up with a really good solution that I think all of us can wrap our brains around.
Chase Briscoe, top of the board. Practice so good lately in qualifying. 3 consecutive poles. And you know what? He's a guy that can jump up and grab you at a road course too.
That's true. Looking at the NASCAR Insights from COTA, he was #1 at passing. He was in the top 10 of all of them. Defensive, speed, restarts. He was 3rd on restarts. And so, you know, pretty impressive, to be honest with you. You don't think about Chase Briscoe, honestly.
In the last 3 polls. Well, here we sit on a Friday, and we're in Mexico City, Steve Post, and it seems like that some things just don't change in practice leading into qualifying.
Boy, they have unloaded good the last month or so, and they've unloaded good here today. In listening to just a little of the communication, what we can gather here, pretty happy with this race car. They want a little bit better sustaining speed over a little bit longer run, but they're fairly happy with the race car. Have said nothing about the brakes that I've heard at all on it, and really not much about the handling on the race car. So Chase Briscoe has just been so good on qualifying here. Those were on intermediate tracks and oval tracks, but he's a very accomplished road racer. He did a lot of sports car racing coming up through the ranks in the Ford program, and he is a very accomplished road racer. I believe he's got a Roval win in the Xfinity Series, and so not a shocker that he can go out and continue that qualifying magic here. Now this team, though, and Chase has talked about this, now we got to start putting Sundays together with the good Saturdays, the good qualifying days we've been having here on the NASCAR Cup Series Tour.
So Chase Briscoe, we had a chance to visit with him earlier today here at the track. Mike and I ran into him. We were just shooting the breeze for 5-10 minutes, whatever the case was, talking about the streak. He's got 4 poles this year, including the Daytona 500, but he's won the pole position for the last 3 consecutive races. That was the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, at Nashville Superspeedway, and last week at Michigan. And he didn't think he was going to have the speed to continue that streak, Mike, but here in practice, he's got it.
You know, when Stewart House Racing announced last year that they were closing up operations, he was the first driver of the 4 that got scooped up. He was the first driver that was able to announce that he was moving on, and he moved on to Joe Gibbs Racing, replacing Martin Truex Jr., who retired at the end of the season. He and James Small have paired up, and the two have been establishing chemistry ever since we raced at the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium back at the beginning of February. And it would seem like, Alex, that as we've gone along through the regular season, it seems like that the preparation of the car, coming off the lift gate and able to respond to the opening day of activities and festivities is there. Now it looks like that they've got to focus on execution and closure on Sundays, and that warrants going to the next level. It would appear that they're headed that way, but quite frankly, I'm surprised that they've not won a race already this year.
I think they would tell you they're a little surprised they haven't won a race. And let's be honest, they're expected to win, not a race, but races throughout their season. So I think that time is coming. I think it's much closer than what it's been because they have been able to put together solid drives on Sundays, if you will, on race days itself, but just yet to bust in. But it's not easy. We have to remind everybody because you get conditioned to these drivers and some of these teams. You're so used to winning races. When they haven't won, you got to wonder, it's like, well, is there something wrong? Is there a problem? Well, the fact of the matter is, it's hard to win at this level. And there's quite a few drivers that won last year that are yet to bust into the winner's circle here this year. So that being said, this could very well be the weekend for Chase Briscoe to get that first.
He continues to show the way atop the leaderboard. Austin Cindric, Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, Joey Logano are the top 5. But that's in single lap speed. 5-lap averages have just popped up. They are totally different, and we'll give them to you in a moment. From Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
To stay up to
every corner, off-cambered curbing, whether he could use the curbing, all of these nuances, you could tell he had done a tremendous amount of homework, and his excitement level matched to come down here.
And his win in Cup on a road course came at Indianapolis. A lot of similarities when you talk about Indy in this place.
Did they just hop from a baseball game to a show on Max without leaving DirecTV?
Well, both of our audio sources going on to ad breaks, so let's go through the running and the classification at the moment with around 13 minutes left in the session. It's Chase Briscoe with Austin Cindric, Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher and Joey Logano, your top 5. Chastain, Shane Van Gisbergen, Josh Berry, Daniel Suarez and Josh Gilliland. Todd Gilliland.
Practice and pole qualifying from Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez is brought to you on Motor Racing Network by E3 Spark Plugs. Stuck in slow motion? Unleash the NASCAR fire inside of your engine with E3 Spark Plugs. Forget pit stops too. E3 gives you maximum fuel efficiency for more miles on the road and less time at the pump. E3 Spark Plugs. Power, speed, domination. Get yours today.
Mike, you teased a moment ago that the 5 consecutive lap average, well, that leaderboard looks different than the single lap speeds.
Indeed it does. Chase Briscoe is fastest amongst the single lap cars, but Steve Post, there's a new driver that is atop the 5-lap average, and that would be one Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yeah, Shane Van Gisbergen just making my way over to his car right now. He sits aboard the wheel of the race car, and looks like he's got a pretty good machine from what you're telling as far as the lap times go and everything else. They've got the car here, actually working on the window net of the car, and just kind of getting a sense from it. Stephen Doran, the crew chief, walks around the front of the car. SVG going to put the hood down, and they're going to go back out on the racetrack. So, obviously, Shane Van Gisbergen, a legend in sports car racing, road racing, Australian supercar racing, burst onto the scene on that street race in Chicago, so he's certainly one that we're going to keep an eye on here, and those lap times look really, really good for Shane Van Gisbergen as he is getting ready to go back on the racetrack and give it another shot here in this practice session.
And of course, Shane Van Gisbergen has one career NASCAR Cup Series win. It came in his very first NASCAR Cup Series start in the inaugural Chicago street race. If you recall that race, run in some damp conditions out there, and he took the field to the woodshed and just put a whooping on him.
I remember after the end of that, well, even during the middle of that race, and especially after the end, everybody was like, who is this guy? He's from Australia. We never heard of him. Well, he's a big deal, obviously, down under. And he staked claim to that checkered flag that afternoon on the streets of Chicago. But what's interesting, Alex, if you go back and you look at all of the recent winners at new road courses, you've got to go all the way back to September of 2018 when Ryan Blaney won the very first Charlotte Roval race.
Yeah, that was that one. Then the first time we ran on the Daytona road course, Chase Elliott got that win. First time racing at Circuit of the Americas, just outside of Austin, Texas. Chase Elliott got that first time win. How about the road course in Wisconsin at Road America? For the very first time the Cup cars raced there, there's a theme. Chase Elliott won that one at the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in August of 21. A.J. Allmendinger got that win, and Shane Van Gisbergen, of course. So this is another new road course for the first time with the NASCAR Cup Series.
Wonder whose name will be etching on the trophy once we drop the checkered flag here Sunday afternoon in the Viva Mexico 250. Told you a few moments ago that Carson Hocevar went around on the racetrack, had a problem in turn 11. Brad Gilly, what's the update on that Spire Motorsports Chevrolet?
Mike, he's back on the track right now. I walked by his garage, and they were doing some extensive repairs, but not necessarily to the bodywork. The whole rear bumper cover likely is going to have to be replaced or repaired at best. The good thing for them when it comes to something like that this weekend, as opposed to most weekends, these cars have not gone through pre-qualifying, pre-race inspection yet. They're going to be able to do whatever repairs they need to that car, get it ready to go through inspection, and be able to retain their starting spot. You don't see that every weekend where inspection happens before practice, but the rear bumper cover was damaged, the rear splitter was not, or the rear diffuser rather was not. Remember, on the road courses and short tracks, these cars call what they say a simple diffuser package on the back. It has a lot less diffuser underneath the car, so when he backed it in, there wasn't really any damage to that. They did do complete rear suspension change as far as the coilovers go, and they sent him back out. Outside of that, the car looked like it was in great shape. The team did not seem too worried out here, and now Hocevar will try and make up a little bit of lost time out there on the racetrack.
It's a great point, Brad, because with NASCAR not doing their official inspection for the weekend until tomorrow morning, we qualify tomorrow. It gives these teams the opportunity to make some big adjustments to their race cars if they're not working, and in Hocevar's case, as Brad pointed out, perhaps a little body panel change as well. Practice is rolling on. Chase Briscoe still the fastest in single lap speeds, while Shane Van Gisbergen the best on a 5 consecutive lap average. From Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
To the limit without really making mistakes or sliding tires. He's able to get really maximize the lap. Look at that. I mean, he's really pushing that car in the braking zone. We're watching a car right here, Josh Berry, who is in the top 10 overall for fastest lap. I would say Josh would be very happy with that. He's got limited experience on road courses and not a ton of success in the road course races that he's ran in the Xfinity Series and now in the Cup Series here. So, but coming to a new track, it's a level playing field for a lot of drivers. You got to see it as an opportunity. That's what we were talking to Ryan Truex about. Us. He's a little nervous about being in this position, driving that 11 car, but hey, it's a level playing field. Come in here with an open mind and attitude. And apparently the Wood brothers and their association with Penske has brought this 21 team and Josh a really fast race car. Well, that really helps. When that car's comfortable and it's doing things and kind of carrying you as you start to learn the racetrack, go out there and run a good lap time, gives you a lot of confidence.
Hocevar spent some time in the garage, 77 back up to speed.
And a little.
Back here at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, Daniel Suarez is on the racetrack as the sun comes back out. His blue and white Telcel Chevrolet screams up to 5th gear down the front stretch and heads off to turn number 1.
Much to the delight of the home crowd here. Makes his way down the front straightaway and into turn number 1. Ty Gibbs second on the board, and Kurt Becker, I believe he's headed your way at a high rate of speed.
Here he comes now, working on the short straight over on the east side of the layout, about midway down the short straight, and comes back into turn number 4. In fact, you're going to have Tyler Reddick come through the corner first. Then the car of Alex Bowman will come through next. More traffic now, including, we talked about Daniel Suarez. He now works his way off the end of the short stretch. Remember, he had an issue in one of the opening laps of practice when he wasn't able to make the corner, but he made ample use of the runoff area, went on without further incident. And Dan, he's headed toward you.
Here comes Daniel Suarez entering the left-hand turn 5 and the right-hand turn 6. Not doing anything overly spectacular, just nice, clean, and tidy through the S's. Backs up the corner here through the entrance of turn 8. Daniel Suarez headed to turn 9.
Daniel Suarez now exits off of turn number 9 in his blue and white Chevrolet Camaro. Races down the short straightaway to turn 11, about 10 car lengths behind Chase Elliott.
Shifting down from 4th gear all the way to 1st gear. That's what they'll run through the entire stadium section. Suarez swings wide, now setting up turn 12, which is that slow left-hander, using all the curve on the left side, now the curve on the right side of turn 13, and rockets over the curves down through the the stadium.
So Daniel Suarez right now will bring his car back out onto turn 14 and 15, while Ty Gibbs at the same time is working his way around the racetrack. Everybody got about half dozen cars that are on the racetrack right now, even more than that, as everybody's just trying to get their fast time in the book. Get ready for the second practice session, which comes up later.
Single lap speeds, the top 5 right now are Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs, Austin Cindric, Chris Buescher, and Joey Logano. Top 5 in the 5 consecutive lap average is Ty Gibbs, has gone to the top of charts in the 5 consecutive lap average. Second is Shane Van Gisbergen. Chase Briscoe is third. Riley Herbst is fourth, and Tyler Reddick is fifth.
Let's get an update on Ty.
Second is Shane Van Gisbergen. Chase Briscoe is third. Riley Herbst is fourth, and Tyler Reddick is fifth.
Let's get an update on Ty Gibbs with Brad Gilley.
Well, Mike, earlier I was talking to his crew chief, Tyler Allen, and the one thing that they did is the same as a lot of teams, but Ty Gibbs is a lot more involved in doing this, and that was spending time in the simulator. Not just trying to learn the racetrack, but to learn all the shift points and potential tendencies on the race car. Gibbs has only been in one time that I've seen so far, back out on the racetrack. The team seems very happy. Minimal adjustments on that race car. When we get into the break, we'll see if we can check in with the crew chief before we get into the next practice session, just to find out what it is they're working on, because it doesn't look like they need much right now.
So as we continue on down to just 9.5 minutes remaining here in this first of 2 practice sessions right now, Briscoe still the fastest on top of the leaderboard. From Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Not overdoing it. He's waiting on that performance to finally come. Thought maybe last week they finally had it as he drove the car into the lead at Michigan, and looked like they had really, really good speed.
Incredible move to get the lead, by the way.
Absolutely. And so he's such a smart racer, maybe one of the smarter racers in terms of just driving to the ability of the car and not making a ton of mistakes. And he is the most consistent driver. Ooh, little mistake right there, locking that left front up into turn 13.
Now's the time, though. 8 minutes left to practice. 3 sets of tires. Normally we have these short practice, you only have 1 set. So you have to be careful not to ruin a set of tires. With 3 sets for practice here, you know, you don't want to just blast a set of tires, but better than in the race. We'll take a look at it. I think it's kind of turning and braking. Maybe a little, I don't know. It looked like he was trying to brake straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take that back. That's pretty straight into that corner. Just that left front's light.
He reminded me of a lesson, and this is something we have to remember on Sunday. Anytime we go road racing, you can't give up on a driver because of the ebbs and flows and the strategies that get introduced. They're crash lap 1, right, getting spun around. So it puts them immediately behind the 8 ball. But because they didn't have track position late, caution comes out, they come and get tires, and he drives all the way back through to a top 5 finish. It speaks to who he is as a driver, but it also talks about how you have to.
Right now, Mike, Team Penske right now being paced by Austin Cindric. He's third on the leaderboard. Joey Logano is fifth, and the third Team Penske car, Ryan Blaney's 21st.
Steve Post, what's the story on the group from Mooresville, North Carolina?
I haven't had a chance to catch up with Ryan Blaney's crew, but I have the other 2. Joey Logano, what's ironic is you guys are talking about good lap times, and he's just feeling kind of meh about the race car. They made 1 adjustment, and it was worse, so they've gone back to what they originally had, what Paul Wolf originally had, and what they're going to do is give it a good long run here to the end of this session and just see which direction they go in. And really, that was the mystery. It's like, okay, you're not happy with it, and Joey wasn't really able to pinpoint something specifically. So they're going to try to hope that maybe over the course of this longer run to the end, they can pinpoint it. Now, when we talk about Austin Cindric, he is talking about the need for lateral grip late in the run. He's really good for a few laps, and then late in the day, lateral grip, and he said it is an absolute handful, especially down in the stadium session. That's a session down where Chris Wilder is coming all the action for us for MRN, and he said it just wants to step out. I have no grip. I can't get back in the gas. I can't do anything down there, and I need to have some grip. So they're working an adjustment on that car to get a little bit more grip in the Austin Cindric car. So while the numbers look good on the pylon, the conversation sounds like they've got some work to do in Team Penske.
Well, the good news is that they have more time to work. We have 6 minutes and 15 seconds left in this session. Take a 30-minute break, come back for another 25. That's where I'm sure there'll be some thrashing going on back in the Cup Series garage, and then everything, well, may not change, but maybe tighten up just a tad as we get closer to what will be tomorrow qualifying at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for the NASCAR Cup cars. That'll be followed tomorrow by the Chilango 150 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and then the Pedro Rodriguez 60 for the NASCAR Mexico Series. The Xfinity race at 4, the Mexico Series race at 7. It will be a full day of broadcasting tomorrow from Autodroma Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City.
Two cars really getting after it, headed towards Kurt Becker in turn 4, are Daniel Suarez and Shane Van Gisbergen.
They are, and in the meantime, Tyler Reddick had an issue coming off the end of the short stretch. Yet another driver. There probably have been, half dozen or so far in this practice session that just overshot the entrance of turn number 4. Tyler Reddick, though, like all the rest, plenty of room to work with, use the runoff area, and he's back on his way.
So that portion of corners there, that portion of the racetrack has been a thorn in the side of a handful of drivers. There is at least a lot of runoff for them to get the cars collected, and we've seen nobody except Carson Hocevar make contact with the turn 11 wall. Nobody's really gone around and scuffed up their race cars, and obviously that's the goal. So this track is very unique, it's very complex, it's very technical, but it has a lot of areas of it that are forgiving as well.
Tyler Reddick is one of 9 full-time drivers that won last year that has not won yet this year. Reddick won 3 times last year, Mike. Are you surprised we haven't seen him get that car back to victory lane so far?
100%, and I will go one step further. I think it's a 23-11 equilibrium issue. Bubba Wallace hasn't been setting the world on fire, and last year, those 23-11 Toyota Camrys were running up front. They were leading laps. They were in the conversation as the races went on. This year, they haven't been as much, and it's almost like their footing is off just a tad, and they're trying to gain that footing in the back half of the regular season.
It doesn't take much to be off in the NASCAR Cup Series competition-wise. The slightest thing can put you mid-pack. But that all being said, those 2 drivers in Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace are still in great position as far as the playoff standing goes. Reddick right now is 11th on the playoff board. Bubba Wallace is 12th.
Right now at the top of the leaderboard, new face, Michael McDowell of Spire Motorsports has just gone to the top of the leaderboard. 1 minute, 34.024 seconds, 92.657 miles per hour. And Michael McDowell, Alex, on the hammer here as we reach the end of this practice session.
Again, Michael McDowell won a Grand American road race here at this circuit in November of 2005. And Brad Gillies down in his garage.
You know, for the past few laps, I've been watching crew chief Travis Peterson go from the garage where they have all of their data that they can look at to go jump up on top of the pit wall to watch Michael McDowell's car go down the front straightaway. Now, he's not watching anything with McDowell's car as far as going through the turns go. He can't see that right now, but he is watching him back and forth every time. The last time he hopped off, I asked him, are you happy? Big smile, big thumbs up from him. Obviously, we know they can get it done as a combo on a road course as they did win in Indy back in 2023 as well. And this team is very happy after going to the top of the board. This is one of those where Travis Peterson looks like at least today's speed is playing right into their hand.
So that's a driver that has a tendency to flex muscle from time to time on road courses. A.J. Allmendinger is another. Let's get a thought with Brad Gilly.
A.J. Allmendinger has been a bit of a struggle on this one, and making our way down to see if we can get an assessment as to what A.J. has said about the race car. Just heard him make a comment, couldn't quite read what he said, listened to it, and then he said, well, just bring it in and we'll regroup. Well, bring it in and regroup is code for we got some work to do. So we'll see where they're at, and you guys, what you see on the lap times and the time tracker up there, it validates what you're saying. A.J. Allmendinger, we expect him to be toward the front of the field. We expect him to race for wins. He's won at the Roval. He won at the Indianapolis road course. Right now, they don't have a car capable of winning, so they're going to go to work during this break period and try to get this car better for this final practice session coming up here in just a little bit.
That's the goal for everybody, and we just saw Kyle Busch do 2 different things. Number one, he went off course and off into the grass. No harm, no foul. He was able to keep the momentum of the car and drive through the grass and back on course. Then he did a practice run at pit road speed, the full length of this long pit lane here, where you enter literally in the middle of turn number 15 to driver's right. He made the pit road speed run all the way down, exits back out onto the main circuit to driver's left. And Dave, that's at a high-speed portion of this course at the end of the front straightaway.
There's no question about it. We saw one of the NASCAR Mexico Series competitors just about tear the wall down after experiencing brake failure here in turn number 1. Nothing nearly as dramatic for Kyle Busch, but he did get in too hot going into one, overshot the runway a bit, locked up the right front tire, ended up missing turn 2 completely, driving through the grass. By that point, he'd gotten it wound down enough that he didn't do any damage or tear up any turf, but a bit of an off-road excursion for Kyle Busch a couple of laps ago here in turns 1 and 2.
We are 40 seconds away from the conclusion of this practice session. Let's give you a full field rundown here, let you know where your favorite driver's stacking up. Michael McDowell is in single lap speeds, the number 1 guy. So is Chase Briscoe in second. You got Ty Gibbs in third, Austin Cindric fourth, Kyle Larson fifth, sixth is Chris Buescher, seventh is Joey Logano, eighth is Ross Chastain, ninth is Shane Van Gisbergen, and Todd Gilliland is 10th.
Josh Berry is 11th, 12th is Daniel Suarez, 13th is Christopher Bell. Ryan Preece is 14th. Kyle Busch is 15th. Chase Elliott is 16th. Carson Hocevar 17th. 18th on single lap speeds is Tyler Reddick. 19th is Riley Herbst, and 20th is Brad Keselowski.
Noah Gregson's 21st. Ryan Blaney is 22nd, with William Byron 23rd. Bubba Wallace is 24th, and Cole Custer is 25th. Zane Smith is 26th, with Eric Jones in 27th. John Hunter Nemechek in 28th. Alex Bowman is 29th, and AJ Allmendinger is 30th.
Justin Haley 31st. Austin Dillon 32nd. Ty Dillon is 33rd, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is 34th. Cody Ware is 35th. Ryan Truex, in for Denny Hamlin this weekend, is 36th. And 37th is Catherine Legg.
Now, let's give you the 5-lap averages. Shane Van Gisbergen, Michael McDowell, Ty Gibbs, 1, 2, 3. But it's a different story, Alex, when you look at the 10-lap average.
That's consecutive laps run. It's Ty Gibbs who's the best. Christopher Bell is second, and up to the number 3 spot on that rundown is a driver that is catching a lot of people's eye here, and that's Todd Gilliland. He was 10th on the single lap speeds, but he does have speed and good handling car on the longer run.
And nobody except for Tyler Reddick got to a 15-lap consecutive run. Everybody's been ducking in, ducking out, making adjustments, and twisting some wrenches and adjusting air pressures on their race cars. There are, even though the black and red flags are flying right now, this practice session is over. We still have several drivers that are still completing laps, including Joey Logano, and now William Byron will bring his car to the pit lane. A couple of other drivers as well, wrapping up their laps and bringing their cars back to the garage too.
That means a lot of work about to begin down in the NASCAR Cup Series garage. We'll take a 30-minute break and then be back for practice number 2, Mike, at the bottom of the hour, 5:30 Eastern Time.
For Dave Moody, Kurt Becker, Dan Hubbard, Tim Catalfamo, Chris Wilner, Steve Post, Brad Gillian, Alex Hayden, I'm Mike Bagley. Practice 1 in the books here in Mexico. Another practice coming up at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll join you then live from Mexico City.
Yeah, absolutely, and we will rejoin MRN for practice 2 in around half an hour. Let's play the highlights of the Firekeepers Casino 400 from last weekend.
Welcome back to Michigan International Speedway for Prime Video's coverage of NASCAR Cup Series racing presented by Goodyear.
Hey, drivers! Start your engine!
Command has been given. Crank your instructor will save all day. Keep it
Put the green flag in the air and turn them loose in the Irish Hills. Using the high side to take the top spot off of turn 4, he'll lead lap 1.
Denny Hamlin trying to slide up in front of the 17 of Buescher. He does. Way down on on the apron. Alex Bowman going around the 2 of Cindric.
You said he's a driver to watch, making it 3 wide outside of him. You got Cindric and way out there, Blaney in the 12.
They're going to stay 3 wide. Blaney's going to stay on the outside. Huge run by the 12 down the back straightaway. He'll clear in front of his teammate Cindric. Still side by side. Bowman, Cindric into turn 3. Here comes the 1 of Chastain, the big run they get. All those cars running side by side, back up toward the front. Kyle Busch on the outside of the 17. He should be able to keep that spot.
Top 3, lap 2, Briscoe, William Byron. We talk about Hamlin, Busch back to 4th, and Chris Buescher rounds out the top 5. And there's Chris Buescher, 17, able to drive around William Byron while we were away.
Yeah, down into turn 3, the 17. We felt like he could have made this pass at any moment. He decided this is the time to do it. Right to the bottom, sealed around that white line on entry. Gets up alongside the 24, and I think Williams is just going to let him have it. He doesn't go down there and try to side draft and slow him down. Just kind of falls in line here, and new leader for the 17 here. Final lap of the stage here, and the 24 car trying the top of the racetrack down there in turn 1 and 2. As they go down the back straightaway, the 11's closing the gap just a little bit here, Adam.
Briscoe started on the pole, led the first 11. William Byron went on point, led for 23. And the last part of the stage has belonged to Chris Buescher, the Texas native. Going to bring it back to the green and white checkered flag and win stage 1 at Michigan.
Logano on the inside, losing spots. Look at him back here. You don't want to be on that inside. That outside line's where you want to be. If you can't make the passes or clear to make the pass, oh, that's tight right there.
There he goes up the track, Custer. And he turns Bowman into the outside wall. They clip Briscoe, the pole sitter.
Hard hit for the 48 of Bowman, head on into the outside wall.
Suarez also a part of this accident.
Yeah, 4 wide, and all of them kind of squeezing together like a funnel. Contact was imminent. Going to slow the field down and stop them to red flag it and allow the teams to get to these drivers quickly.
AMR safety team is there. Window net is down for Alex Bowman in the 48. Replay.
So the 4 cars in front of him, 4 wide. Ty Dillon, he goes through. But the 2 makes contact with the 41 Cole Custer. Since spins Cole around, the 48 head on into the wall. Just a chain reaction there. Looked like the 35 wasn't quite aware that there were 4 wide. Herbst coming down the track slightly. Squeezed all these guys. You hate to wreck at the back of the field like that too. Just
Briscoe get it right there at the end. Just an absolute gigantic hit on the 48. But remember, Briscoe had that slow pit stop. We saw it live.
Yeah,
that's what had him back there. Look at this shot. Unbelievable. The amount of force, 3,500 pounds at 180 miles an hour. And then right through there, you're going to see Briscoe get turned a little bit and slide down to the left.
Let's go to 48 radio, listen in with Alex Bowman's group.
You all right, bro? That one was really f***ing big. All right, hold tight. Gather yourself here. We're done, guys.
Road. He's now the first car 1 lap down. It wouldn't shock me if he tries to unlap himself here. He's obviously in the free pass position, but unlapping himself definitely opens up his situation. This will be a good test to see if new tires are big enough difference, right? Both cars have great clean air. If the tires matter, the 20 should be able to easily.
The 12 spinning on the pit road here.
Oh, Ryan Blaney, no caution yet. There it is.
And that was not an attempt to get to pit road. He actually got in the outside wall. His tire marks are way up the racetrack. I believe he got into the fence around turn 4. So here we are. He's by himself. Looks like just loses control of the car up into the wall. It's odd to see cars in the fence by themselves. We've seen it a couple times today. The 42 of John Hernandez and the 12 now of Blaney getting into the wall all by themselves. Just these cars are not all that comfortable late into the run.
2 from Cindric, side by side at the line, 1 lap to go.
Cindric didn't side draft. Now he's just going to try to squeeze the 24 a little bit down into the corner, but Byron has the tires. He's going to fire that car across the nose of the 2 and take the lead away.
William Byron having a day. And look at this coming from behind Hocevar.
Hocevar's got the momentum on the 2. He's going to try to get to one side or the other. Oh, can he get to the outside here? That was gutsy.
And think about where Hocevar is in the points. He needs all he can get as we come to the end of the stage. William Byron going to get the green and white checkered flag. Cindric second. Hocevar ends up third.
For this 18, who finally got on the right side of the cut line last week. We'll see if they can stay there. And how about the Michigan-born driver, Eric Jones, now in the 10th position? He told me earlier this week the caution comes out.
Caution number 7, Todd Gilliland has made hard contact.
Yeah, heavy damage. That is off the exit.
I hit the left rear really hard. I think it blew a left rear tire. I'm going to try and drive here.
Oh, blew a left rear tire. I was wondering if this would show up. Oh, I think this is going to be a big spin.
Yeah, that's a left rear tire coming out from under the car there.
He's up there right now, though, because he's leading. But even if he didn't have the race lead right now, he would be above the cut line. But that's why, as you say, it's so critical to manage it the right way.
He's got a flat tire.
Flat rear.
Flat left rear.
He's going to spin this car out down here. He's got to slow it down.
Left rear.
Oh, it was the engine late at Charlotte when he was running up there on the front row for a restart. Leading here, 19 to go, and Carson Hocevar going to have to come to pit road with a tire problem.
Then he's going to drive down into the corner. The 24 gets a little loose right there. Now Denny side by side. This is what he needs.
Denny Hamlin is there. Drives to the inside of William Byron. Can he make the pass? 24 fighting back in the outside lane. Going to be 4 laps to go this time around. Byron trying to hang on. Hamlin not going away. What a race for the top spot at Michigan. And here comes the 54, a Ty Gibbs waiting in the wing.
They're going to side draft each other down the straightaway. That's going to bring Gibbs into it. Denny's smart.
I know it's tempting.
He's staying away from
the
him.
draft here. All you can save while they're wearing each other down. Still 4 to the 17.
Denny's going to try to drive up the racetrack. Can he get the 24 out of the gas here on corner exit?
Byron slides it off the corner, and once again he's back out front, but now Hamlin digging inside again.
Perfect side draft right there. Denny's going to clear easily.
Clear.
Denny Hamlin all clear off of turn 4, coming back to the start-finish line with 3 laps remaining.
24's out of gas, coming to pit road.
24 didn't make it, so that means the 11 has to be close. Can the 11 nurse this thing around for one more?
1 lap to go, sponsored by Credit One Bank. Long time for the 44-year-old. Nice advantage over Busher, but can he hang on and maintain the fuel mileage?
He's nursing it, 3/4 throttle, half throttle, just enough to keep forward momentum.
Plenty of anxiety in the 11 camp. Here comes Denny Hamlin. 3rd win of the year, gonna come at Michigan. Number 11 delivers.
Let's go! How about that, man? Got you 1 fuel race back of all the ones you've lost, okay? We marked that one down.
That was highlights from last weekend's race at Michigan for the Firekeepers Casino 400, as we are in the gap between free practice 1 and free practice 2. So let's go and join NASCAR on Prime for their in between the practice sessions broadcast.
And the high-speed S is like, it just takes a little bit of it all, and for the drivers it's a lot of fun, at least for me.
Got a quick car once again, Danielle. Could it be a 4th week in a row for Chase Briscoe on the pole tomorrow?
Top 30 cars separated by just 1 second in that practice, Marty. Good stuff. He was P1 until this guy knocked him off the board. From Spire, Michael McDowell, your winner from the Indianapolis road course not long ago, so he knows how to turn left and right. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good to have you here. What did you make of this brand new course? What a gorgeous facility.
It was a lot of fun. You know, you always come out and you have a plan, and you're going to try to execute your plan just right. Then you get out there, and it all seems just a little bit different, and you still have to find that rhythm and find that groove. But felt like we made good changes on the Blaster Chevrolet. You know, had to get a little bit more out of it from that first run, but felt like our second run was in the game, and you know, the biggest thing here is just continuing to stay on top of it. Everybody's going to make gains here going into this next practice. All the drivers are going to be more comfortable pushing it in the brake zone. So that gap's going to close up. You got to just keep pushing forward.
Some would say, well, first of all, it's awesome to have you up here, man.
Hey,
you're one of my favorite guys in the garage, and I believe one of the favorites for the race on Sunday. And, you know, we walked around the track a little bit this morning. You were really confident, and I love that. And the speed showed. As a really experienced road course racer, what's the toughest thing about this track now that you've been on it? What are people struggling with the most?
I think it's really just finding the limit and how much of the S's you can take and how close you can get to those tires. You know, there's gains to be made when you get right close to that tire stack, but you know you're playing with fire. And so you're trying to hit your marks and you're trying to be smooth, but at the same time, you're challenging yourself every corner, every lap, because now's the time to find the limit and not try to find it in the race. So that's the tough part with practice is you're pushing yourself and you're pushing the car, and you're trying to find a rhythm in that. And so I feel like it's a little bit messy and sloppy that first practice, and then second practice you kind of hone all that in.
Absolutely. I've watched you guys out there. It's incredible to see you guys just go through the stadium section. But a track that reminds me a lot about this is the Indy road course.
Yeah.
And you know, have a lot of success there. As you know, we've got some clips from you. How integral was this win for you in that 34th?
It just meant so much. I mean, you know, Daytona 500, nothing tops that. But to go to Indy and to lead all the laps and, you know, just to outright beat everybody on speed was just an awesome day. And to have my family there and, you know, the kiss the bricks at Indianapolis. I mean, it doesn't get any cooler than that. Just a special moment that, you know, you'll remember forever. But as you guys know in this sport, that was a long time ago. And it goes away real fast. That memory doesn't. But that desire to win, to get into the playoffs, to do all the things that Spire hired me to do, we haven't done it yet. And so this is a good weekend for us to try to get it done.
And as a veteran who's won these races in these cars, you've been on this track and other types of cars, you have so much experience. What can we look for on Sunday? Where are the choke points at this racetrack? Where are the opportunities? You know, what are the things that really make you pucker and then the things that you look forward to?
You're sitting in the choke point. I mean, when you look at turn 13, 14, I mean, they're so tight. They're so slow. It just invites you to run into somebody. I mean, it just does. So I want to get the lead, and I want to get far enough away that nobody can, you know, run into you there. But restarts are going to be wild going down in turn one, obviously. Long straightaway. There's going to be some great braking opportunities. But like you heard Chase Briscoe talk about, you slowly start to lose that braking capability. And I think it has a lot to do with the altitude. It has a lot to do with, you know, the car's ability to cool. And that brake zone's so long. So there might be a time in this race where you're actually thinking about conserving brakes, which we have not done in this next-gen car for a long time.
The altitude obviously did not get the best of this man or his race car. P1 in practice. Another practice coming up here in just a little bit. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
When we come back, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., driver of the number 47 Hayek Chevrolet.
18 minutes to go until we go green for the second practice session here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. And NASCAR's return to Mexico. And on your screen now is the results from free practice 1 if you missed it. With the top 23 being displayed. And then this is page 2 of the timing screen down to 37th. Okay, so just waiting for NASCAR on Prime to come back from ad break, and while we do that, let's go over and get ready for the 25-minute free practice 2 session here at Mexico City. Let's go back to NASCAR on Prime.
Drivers get 20 more minutes on this road course coming up in just a moment. So let's diagnose what we know so far with driver the number 47 Hayek Chevrolet, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. This guy was just asking you in break, do you want it to rain? It is rainy season here in Mexico City, so it might happen.
Yeah, last one rained at Chicago, finished 6th there last year. So, yeah, I mean, let it rain, make it a little more chaotic. And, I did see, this racetrack holds a lot of water in different areas. So,
we learned that yesterday.
That'll be interesting. But, I don't think you're going to need rain for it to be interesting. There's a lot of areas of this racetrack that are, it invites you to charge, then you can overcharge very easily. So
we saw you overcharge. What was that, turn 4 earlier?
Yeah, 4, 11.
All of them. But you gotta go get it, right?
Got to figure it out.
And then you can back up from there. How is that 47 hot rod right now?
We kept one set of tires on it. We'll maybe use 2 this next practice. So I'd like to, go out and lay a little bit better of a lap down. I felt better, kind of lap 6, 7. My car, I was telling my guys, felt like I had the same grip in my Fun Pops Camaro the first lap that I did the 10th lap. So, maybe later on in the run we'll be okay, but looking for a little bit of speed. You got to qualify well here.
And when she mentioned rain, we talked about that, and I saw your eyes light up. I mean, Ricky Stenhouse, I met you. You were a dirt sprint car racer.
Yeah.
You've got more. I've seen some car control out of you. I remember in a race at Iowa that was pretty wild. If you got a clip of that, go look at that on YouTube. So I think of these cars, when I watch them, you're manhandling these cars over the curbs, you're trying to do all these things. It reminds me of like running the cushion at a dirt track. Do you enjoy that difficulty, that complexity as a driver?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think if you're, especially when you start sliding around, you're always looking for just a little bit to make your car faster. And, I started, exit of 14 there, kind of letting it slide to the wall, kind of catch the curve with the left rear like you're catching the cushion a little bit, kind of ease the throttle down, to get a run down that front straightaway. And you kind of bounce off these curbs, and, the S's are not as flowy as I thought they were going to be. In the sim, it seemed like you could kind of flow them a little bit better. Maybe Michael can. I mean, he was really fast, so maybe we need to get our car handling a little bit better. But no, I like the challenge of the cars sliding around, tire fall off, and things like that.
It's so hard to put an entire lap together, especially when you go from 2 practices full board today. You sleep on it, then they expect you to go one lap tomorrow in qualifying. So how much are you trying to think about putting that perfect lap together for tomorrow?
Yeah, I was just talking to Mike Kelly and the guys and thinking about, we got 2 sets of tires, like I said, for this next practice session. So, if our car is good, we want to make a long run, like Michael said, figure out how much the brake fade is going to happen over the course of a long tire run. And then if we feel good, we'll throw that next set of tires on and see if we can put our Fun Pops Camaro a good lap down for practice and just get a mental game plan going into tomorrow's qualifying session.
And we talk a lot about the things that are going to get you the performance, all right? But I've been here, I've been at the hospital here screwing it all up. What are the things that you see out here that are the most treacherous? Like, what are the things that are going to get you?
I think just, for me, I think flat spotting a tire will ultimately take a lot of people out of the race. I flat spotted my tire a couple of times there, and, I was able to finish the practice session, but there was a chunk missing. And so I think, obviously we'll get more comfortable and figure out the brake zones, but when you're trying to pass people, you're going to start locking tires up, and you will have to pit. You can't go down this front straightaway with a flat spot tire.
I've had to try to kick his fastball at Corey LaJoie's kickball tournament. I've watched you play football, basketball. You're a beast in the gym, so I'm guessing this altitude has no effect on you, but I hear it can be an issue for the car
for
and
others.
for others.
In the car, yes.
Are you at 100%? Do you even feel the thing?
Yeah, I feel great. I got up and worked out, did a pretty tough workout this morning, actually.
Come on, let's go.
The racetrack. So, no, we're, definitely all the engine manufacturers are worried about, overheating. Heard there was a few overheating issues, throughout that practice session. Watching my gauges, I felt like they were obviously well hotter than they normally are, and that was out by yourself. That's not, tucked up next to each other racing. So you got to assume that's going to, be more issues for those cars. And, you know, growing up in the engine shop with my dad, I do know like altitude changes the performance of the engine. You know, got to put more fuel to it, take fuel away, and just see how these things run. So attrition on the engine will be.
Do you feel that, like, knock horsepower down a little bit?
I do, mainly in the stadium section. You know, you're so slow right here, but I feel like there is some time to be made up, so you're kind of hustling it, and then you go to the gas.
We saw it.
And then you go to the gas, and there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden it kind of lights it up, almost like a two-stroke dirt bike a little bit.
We've been talking to engine builders all week. They said there's about 22% less oxygen getting to the engine, so you definitely feel the difference in power. Wish you the best of luck on Sunday, Ricky.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Ricky.
Corey, beast at the kickball tournament. Am I right?
He's a beast.
Impeccable physical fitness from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We're back with more live on Amazon Prime next.
And let's take a look at the remaining schedule of the weekend here across NASCAR and the rest of JB Motorsports. So you can catch live now the Formula 1 Canadian Grand Prix Free Practice 2 with JB and the team. They are on there now. Then after the conclusion of that, around 11:25 p.m. British Summer Time, that's 11:30, the session is getting underway. It's the F1 Academy qualifying there in Canada. Then tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. it's the World Superbike San Marino Free Practice 3. Then it's Superpole from 9:55. And then from 10:50, it's the World Endurance Championship 24 hours of Le Mans warm-up. That session getting underway at 11 a.m. British Summer Time. World Superbikes, they have their first race at 12:50 with a 1 p.m. formation lap time. F1 Academy have their first race at 2:10. Of course, 3 races for F1 Academy this weekend due to the cancellation of the one in Miami. And that first race gets underway at 2:15. But also starting at 2:15 is the 24 Hours of Le Mans race broadcast. The full 24 hours, every single second of the 24 hours, plus a full pre-race build-up and a full post-race show. That'll be live here on JB Motorsports and JB Motorsports Twitch. Then IndyCar is at Gateway. That practice is at 4:20, and we will continue the schedule. But first, let's go to NASCAR on Prime, getting ready for the second practice session.
But to really understand it, we'll go under the hood and take a look at what else is affected. Remember, this air feeds the engine, as you guys were just discussing. It cools the engine. It also cools the brakes, and it does not do a very good job of cooling the brakes. So thinner air is less efficient. It's easier to overheat the brakes. Guys, you guys on the desk know as drivers how important the brakes are. So now you have a car that goes through the air faster because of less drag, and the brakes work less because they're warmer lap after lap after lap. So when you look at all the effects of altitude, really, it's that less power, the aero effects I just pointed out, but then the cooling is also a concern, guys, for both the brakes and the engine.
Look at all of that reduction that teams have to adjust to, the driver has to feel. Corey, you asked Ricky the question. Do you feel all of that reduction in the car? Were you surprised that he said, yeah, you can feel it?
Absolutely. There's also 2 things that drivers always complain about no matter where you are, and it's downforce and engine. And here's a reduction of both, right? So you're struggling for grip. You're trying to push these corners, trying to figure out a whole new racetrack these guys have been to before. Oh, and then we have to keep this minimum speed up to try to get these cars going down the straightaway, Carl.
Yeah, and now that I see this on the screen, it's such a good description by Letarte and the Prime crew. I remember my first couple laps here thinking, man, this thing just doesn't feel the same. You know, it wouldn't stop as well. It didn't turn as well. And then you take the effects altitude on the human, right? And it's possible that you're just a little more fatigued. So for me, this place was really fun. We talked to a dirt racer, Ricky Stenhouse, because of that. It was more challenging. Nothing worked as well as you wanted. And I think it just makes for a better race.
Absolutely.
Interesting to see how Fords, Chevrolets, and Toyotas all adjust for this difference at high altitudes. Again, nearly 7,500 feet above sea level. In that first practice a moment ago, Austin Cindric was P4 on the board. Let's talk to the Penske driver. He's downstairs with Marty Snyder.
Thank you, Danielle. Let's chat about what it feels like behind the wheel with all this altitude. So what are the differences you notice with the car at 7,200 feet?
I think the first time I picked up on the altitude was walking up to the restaurant. You go up those 3 flights of stairs and you're like, need some more cardio. But no, it's honestly not too different like in the car. You know, I think everything's just less efficient, right? I'm sure the guys have touched on it, but you know, your fans and you know what we normally do, but even just, you know, it's hard for me to tell whether if it's the surface of the racetrack, because I feel like it is really unique, or just the altitude that it is so different about, you know, even just, I feel like it's so much easier to lose grip. So I think there's a lot of learnings left for everyone to do here for this final 20 minutes. So looking forward to see if we can find our Craig Stare Menards full Mustang and try and get a good consistent run in.
I saw you and about 10 other drivers lock up the right front wheel. What's going on with that?
Skill issue, I guess. I don't know. I've only got so much rear bias I can put into the thing, so I'm, pretty curious about that. And when I say having a good, consistent run, that's what it's about. Because I mean, lap 3 of practice, I quartered my right front tire, and you can't do that in the race. So, pretty focused on just being able to put in some consistent laps here and see what we got for Sunday's race.
All right, Austin Cindric going to go chat with Brian Wilson and get ready for this next session, Trevor.
Yeah, Marty, and if you talk to any Cup team any weekend and you say, what changes your performance, they say all the little details. And the biggest detail this weekend we've been talking about is altitude. We've already seen the effects on the race cars with the braking capacity being lowered. The drivers, though, the teams have all had different approaches of what they were going to do to get the drivers' bodies ready for this weekend. Over 7,300 feet, 5,000 feet higher than any other racetrack we go to. When you get in this environment, your body starts to starve for oxygen. You don't have enough red blood cells to carry that oxygen to your tissues. So what the drivers have been doing, some sleeping in hypoxic chambers, some training with masks, some nothing. They said, I'll be all right, I'm going to tough it out. We're going to find out, though. We might not have found out in practice. We will find out when we get to lap 100 if that work paid off. But I can tell you, for Noah Gragson over here, we mentioned the reduced braking ability. He felt it getting into the corner. You see him now inside this backup car helping his team get it turned around.
Oh, no. Backup car for Noah Gragson. Holy moly.
They're going to have to go to a backup.
I wish that Trevor would have pulled out. He's got a little toy in his pocket. He's got a little blood oxygen sensor. He put it on my finger.
Really?
He measured me. Where are you at? I was 92. I was standing next to Junior. He was 91. And then, there it is. Let's see it.
I've got it for you, Corey. We can measure it up anytime
Trevor,
you
come
need
on
to.
out to the S.
Come on,
I
want to know what I got. I'm sure Carl's is 102 right now. There's no fatigue in this fella right here, Carl. How do you feel up here at this high?
Yeah, and I think, you know, just to the folks that are at home that tuned in for practice and qualify, know that really you are watching something special here. It's such a neat place. It's such a neat experience. You're going to feel it through the whole race weekend. You can see it when you guys are going up. They're chatting up there in the cafeteria. We're laughing about going up the stairs. You're watching them bounce off the curbs. So this really is a special event, and I hope that's not lost. It just feels good to be here. So much fun. I see a lot of smiles in the garage.
A lot of smiles. We're all having so much fun. Un poquito español.
Oh.
So we're struggling a little bit ordering food and margaritas. ¿Cómo se dice?
Mi español es
Tequila.
no bueno,
They understood what we meant. We hope you guys enjoy the show. 20 more minutes of practice for the NASCAR Cup Series here in Mexico City. We're going to turn it over to Adam Alexander, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Steve Letarte right after this quick timeout. Stay with us.
Under 3 minutes to go until we are green and the cars head back out on track for free practice 2 here in the NASCAR Cup Series at the Autodromos Hermanos Rodriguez. We're just getting the 3-minute time check on MRN, and we shall get ready to link back up to MRN.
Rated R.
As a little bit of interference, so apologise of that, but we are back now with the NASCAR on Prime just being disconnected from the millions and millions of audio sources we have here as we are getting ready. We are 20 minutes. I've heard 20 minutes and I've heard 25 minutes from NASCAR, so we will wait to see what we are actually going to have.
That was 2 minutes to airtime. This is the Motor Racing Network counting down to today's broadcast. Your next time check will be 90 seconds to airtime.
Getting ready
if you're having problems
for the broadcast for FP2 with the time check in the background. Cars lining up in pit road here in Mexico City. And they await the green flag and green light on the pit road. 90 seconds to go until the broadcast. Let's see if we can join. Yes, we can. Let's go and join NASCAR on Prime for the next minute.
Have all 4 tires on this side of the curbing, right? You can't have all 4 tires over there. So the drivers in NASCAR have gotten together and they've decided to add this tire pack, which is going to be super interesting to me because, you know, you could work drivers right here pretty easy, and this is Chris Buescher right here. So you see where he's at, perfectly legal, absolutely above that yellow line. I just wonder, Dale, from a driver's point of view, you're only sitting a few feet off the ground. How much more intimidating it's going to be staring at that tire pack as you turn back to the right.
Yeah, that, and also NASCAR's placed the tire pack, at least temporarily, on the yellow line. That yellow line, you could get to it, you just couldn't cover the tire with it. That would be against the rules to cover the yellow line, but you could get up there close to it. Now that tire pack is going to be an obstacle, and it may change some of these drivers and how they approach that corner. They've sort of gotten an understanding after driving this track for an hour, Adam, about how they need to be positioned to enter that series of corners. And now they may have to rethink that a little bit and make some adjustments.
I want to know, like, whoa, like, what is that? Yeah. Like, do they?
It's the NASCAR Cup Series.
Let's get a big thumbs up. Get ready to rock and roll past the race cars today, pal. Oh, boys, let's execute. Have a good day.
Today, practice for the Viva Mexico 250 from Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Presented on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Powerful and fuel efficient. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mexico City, Mexico. It's our second visit today. This will be the second and final practice session before Sunday's Viva Mexico 250. And, of course, with qualifying coming up tomorrow here in Mexico City. Mike Bagley, Alex Hayden, the entire MRN crew here with you. Practice 1 in the books. Michael McDowell, Alex was fastest. Chase Briscoe, second fastest in the practice of about an hour and a half ago. It's going to be interesting to see what changes for those drivers that perhaps maybe weren't happy with their race cars, what changes they'll make to make them better in this 25-minute session.
You're right. It's only been a 30-minute gap since they were last on the track. The weather changes have not really occurred either. Still overcast. The occasional sunshine peeking through, 72 degrees. So temperatures here at the track are still the same. Conditions are still the same. You mentioned Michael McDowell ended practice number 1 as the fastest. Steve Poster, in that 30-minute break, you had a chance to catch up with him.
Yeah, I did catch up with Michael, and he is really happy with the race car. He said all he needs his car to do is just point a little better. In other words, when he gets to the middle of the corner, he just needs the car to point a little bit better, and he'll feel really, really good. Now, he feels good about his race car. He talked about his prowess, his success on road courses. He said, but here's the reality of what we're going to deal with here today and this weekend. I come to these racetracks very comfortable. He said a lot of other guys do not come comfortable to these racetracks. He said they're going to get more and more comfortable, and it's on us to take a really good race car like we have and fine-tune it to stay ahead of that curve, to stay ahead of everybody else, because nobody is going to allow Michael McDowell just to walk away with quick time, pole, win the race, that sort of thing. things. So Michael knows they've got a lot of work to do, and they're going to start right in this practice session. 4 new sticker tires on the race car, and go out and just see if they can get that car to turn just a little bit better in the center of the corner, and so he can get on the gas just a little bit quicker up off of each of the corners out on the racetrack.
So Michael McDowell was fastest. Another driver that was quick as well in single lap and 5-lap, 10-lap average was Tom Gibbs of Joe Gibbs Racing.
And he's just had a problem off of turn 7. You mentioned Ty Gibbs. He has spun it. He has done the 180. It was a long, lazy slide. He comes to a rest. Now he grabs the gear and points it in the right direction. Ty Gibbs having a problem just off the exit of turn 7.
Well, Brad Gilly, you had a chance to spend time with him between these practice sessions. Obviously, this one not getting off to the start that he had hoped for.
No, Mike. In fact, the answer he gave me when I asked him how it was out there was simple. He just said fun. But he said it with the big smile on his face. So to me, that puts you ahead of the game when you're having a good time, plus you have a very fast race car. I did ask him a little more detail about what it felt like on the racetrack, and he's just happy with his race car. But he said the one thing that was very noticeable to him was the lack of power by comparison to when we race in the United States. At 7,500 feet above sea level here in Mexico City, that is almost 7,000 feet higher above sea level than what we have in Charlotte, North Carolina, where it's about 700-800 feet above sea level. He said the difference in power was very, very noticeable. So Ty Gibbs coming back into the garage right now. They're going to check on his car. I'll walk over there and see what we can learn about that slide.
He has an off-excursion of the track that our own Dan Hubbard mentioned out there in turns 7, 8, and 9. Why don't we take a drive around this race course and pick up Chase Briscoe? He's working his way down the front straightaway right now in the Bass Pro Shops Tracker Boats Toyota, headed off to turn 1 where Dave Moody is.
He was the fastest in the opening practice for virtually the entire session before getting bumped off the top spot by Michael McDowell in the very late going. He surges now down into turn number 1, hops up over those red and white painted rumble strips, does the same in the other direction, going left through turn number 3, climbs right over the rumble strips, goes into the runoff area, which many of the drivers, Kurt Becker, are using in turn 3.
And here comes Chase Briscoe now. He navigates the short stretch between turn 3 and turn 4. He'll woe it down to second gear and work his way right around to the bottom side of turn number 4, and now starts to work his way toward the S's.
Watching Chase Briscoe now through the left-hand turn 5, the right-hand turn 6, and the left-hand turn 7. Nice and nifty on the part of Chase Briscoe. Kind of off speed just a little bit, not forcing the issue. He goes to the right-hand turn 8.
Chase Briscoe calmly now out of the left-hand turn number 9, swings a little bit wide into the paved runoff area at the exit of turn 10, and now heads down to turn 11.
The sweeping right-hander at turn 11 as Briscoe gets on the brakes, downshifts to first gear here as he dives into turn number 12. We're in the stadium section, the U-State grandstands. We've got fans cheering on Chase Briscoe as he hugs the curb in the right side off of 13 to 14.
And they're the voices of Dave Moody, Kurt Becker, Dan Hubbard, Tim Catalfemo, and Chris Wilner, who have all the action covered in the corners this weekend. Of course, we've heard from Steve Post and Brad Gilly, Alex Hayden, yours truly, our 9-member broadcast crew for the Viva Mexico 250 race weekend here in Mexico City. Ryan Blaney has just surged to the top of the leaderboard. Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, and Christopher Bell are the Fast 5 so far. From Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Reacts. Whether that's a new track, a new challenge, a new rule, a new anything. You know, when something changes and it gets tossed into that garage area, the amount of brain power that instantly starts calculating on that problem is unbelievable.
Ryan Blaney, dominating win a couple of weeks ago at Nashville, put himself in the playoffs, leading practice here. There you see Logano, his teammate, currently second. So we watch Hocevar in the corner.
Yeah,
Ricky
Hocevar.
Stenhouse Jr. close together.
They're trying their hardest not to run into each other this weekend. They've had a few, they had some history at Nashville. That's pretty funny. Hocevar actually somehow saw that coming and was able to make a little bit of an adjustment there.
Anybody but the 47, he was thinking, please don't let me get out in front of the 47.
Ross Chastain now quickest in practice. Number 1 has gone P1, 17.
Back at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, we are into our final practice session. 17 minutes to go. A few moments ago, Ty Gibbs had an off-track excursion. He has brought the car back to the NASCAR Cup Series garage. Brad Gilly, what's the update on that Toyota?
Well, Mike, the sound you hear is the sound of Ty Gibbs pulling away. When he came back into the garage, the first thing they wanted to do was make sure there was no damage to the underwing of the race car. So they put the car all the way up on jack stands, gave a good once-over look at everything, and then they went back on the adjustments that they had made during the 30-minute break in between practices. All four wheels came off. In fact, crew chief Tyler Allen was underneath it himself, making some adjustments on the coilovers with those adjusters. So they checked everything. It all checked out. They went back on some adjustments they made, and they're putting Ty Gibbs back out on the racetrack.
So good news there for Ty Gibbs as he got up on the curbing and bounced around, and yeah, could very well have done some damage to the bottom of the race car, but obviously they gave it the good once-over. It seems to be pretty good. Now, as we continue on, Trackhouse Racing has just gone to the top of the leaderboard. Ross Chastain now is the fastest in single lap speeds.
1 minute 33.685 seconds, 93.012 miles an hour. So you got Ross Chastain that is sitting up on top of that leaderboard. You've got his teammate in Shane Van Gisbergen that is 8th, with the other teammate Daniel Suarez in 6th, sandwiched right in the middle. Steve Post, what's the update on SVG after practice number 1?
Yeah, I talked to Stephen Doran, the crew chief on that car, and they're really happy. Shane says the car just drives really good, and that means it just turns good. When he wants the car to go left, it goes left. When he wants it to go right, it goes right. When he wants it to go fast, it goes fast. When he wants it to go slow, it goes slow. I said, is there any concerns? He said, no. With the performance of the car, and Shane is our driver, we feel really, really good. He said, my concern is we're doing this shorthanded. And if you followed along the story of NASCAR and the travels that we've made down to Mexico, there were some plane problems, some issues with a couple of planes, and some of the teams were late and even shorthanded. Trackhouse is still shorthanded. Stephen Doran said, I've got 3 guys working on the car, we're busting our tail, and we're really doing well. And he also said, but there's a lot of people in this garage area that helped us get set up and get through tech. Alex, you and I had a visit this morning, and you had talked to some people too. In a situation like this NASCAR Cup Series garage, they may be fierce competitors on Sunday afternoon, but boy, a lot of teams rolled up their sleeve to help their fellow competitors get ready here in Mexico.
They really have. I spent some time with Ross Chastain, also from Trackhouse. He said, no, I don't have my full complement of guys, but I got enough. And we're competitors. When everybody gets here, we're going to be that much better. The other team I spent some time with as I was meandering through the garage, I walked up and I saw one lone crew member with a Haas factory team shirt on, working on Cole Custer's Haas factory team Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Walked up and said, are you by yourself? He goes, no, I got one more guy. So only 2. They flew commercial to Mexico City yesterday. The engineers did, those 2 engineers, and they were here with no problem. But there was no way they were going to be able to get everything accomplished before practice started this afternoon without the help of other teams. Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, another Ford team, came over. After they got everything set up they needed to, they helped unload the race car for Cole Custer. They helped set up the garage area, the toolboxes. They even went and got all the Goodyear Eagle tires charted and documented and ready to go for practice for the entire day as well. Mike, it's not a unique story. You also had some conversations.
I talked with the folks at Hayek Motorsports. They as well went into, I don't want to say scramble mode, but they were more than willing to help those teams that you just described, help them get their cart set up, help them get their tires squared away and all that stuff. And in talking with others in the garage, I had another person tell me, he's like, listen, we're not trying to put the screws to them here. We want to help them here. We're not helping them on Sunday. They're on their own. We're going to help you. We're going to lend that helping hand, but then we're going to take care of business on Sunday.
It's just part of it, but everybody has been able to get on track and get a ton of laps in through opening practice, and now here in this final practice for the Viva Mexico 250. 13 minutes remain from Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Yeah, so we're coaching about his braking as we're riding on board down into turn 1. Using a little bit of these curves through turns 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to run pretty wide right here. Out of turn 3, heading off toward turn 4. This has been a tough braking zone for the cars and teams in the first practice. So they're starting to respect that now, braking a lot earlier.
And as we exit 4, we're going to see that 5, 6, 7 combination. We're going to see that new set of barrel tires. This was the normal one. This is the new one right here, driver right. Back to driver's left, and now he's going to be heading down into 11, the right-hander. Or first 8, excuse me. I'm getting ahead of myself. 8, 9.
You're as aggressive as the driver, Steve.
Well, yeah. The S is over yet. Nope, there's 3 more corners.
Here he is to 11.
We're down to just 11.5 minutes to go now in final practice for the Viva Mexico 250. A lot going on here in this 2 practice sessions. The first one was an hour in length, and one of the drivers, Brad Gilly, in practice number 1 that had an issue was Noah Gregson. What's the latest there?
Well, I can tell you this, Noah Gregson is not inside of his race car. He was just a moment ago, but not in his fire suit. He was actually sitting inside of a backup car in street clothes. He is helping this Front Row Motorsports team convert the primary over to the backup car. The seat insert is out of his primary car, as well as some of the other interior things. There is a Front Row crew working on the backup car right now, while another Front Row crew, including Roush Yates Engines, are working to pull the engine out of the primary car so they can put it in this backup car. So unfortunately for Noah, who had left side damage in that first practice session, this is going to be a tough one for them. They're missing out on a lot of practice, and they're going to take their backup car and get it ready to go for the race on Sunday.
A driver having a problem on the racetrack just a moment ago was Chase Briscoe. Left front down on that car. He is headed to the garage to change that. He was one of the faster drivers in practice 1, Steve Post.
And they just arrived back here at the garage. In fact, the car's not even in the garage. They've taken that left front tire off, and that left front tire now is being looked at by some of the engineers from Goodyear Racing Tires. Looks like the shoulder, the outer shoulder on that tire has failed as it is opened up. We have the sidewall of the tire and the tread of the tire, and that seam is the shoulder, and it looks like and actually it's the inner shoulder on the left front tire of Chase Briscoe's car. Now they've got another tire on, and they're slowly pushing that car into the garage area, but they're just trying to look and see what happened with that tire and what might have caused the air to go out of that tire for Chase Briscoe.
Some challenges for a lot of different teams here in this 25 and final minute practice session. Todd Gilliland has gone to the top of the leaderboard on single lap speeds. The best on a 5 consecutive lap average is Ross Chastain. Practice and pole qualifying from Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez is brought to you on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Stuck in slow motion? Unleash the NASCAR fire inside your engine with E3 Spark Plugs. Forget pit stops too. E3 gives you maximum fuel efficiency for more miles on the road and less time at the pump. E3 Spark Plugs. Power, speed, domination. Get yours today.
9 minutes and 15 seconds left in this practice session, and this will conclude activities for the day here in Mexico City. Earlier today, we had coverage of the NASCAR Mexico Series race, the Ricardo Rodriguez 60. Max Gutierrez took the checkered flag there. When we had practice 1, now practice 2. Tomorrow's going to be a full day of broadcasting from Mexico City as well. Be sure to join us at 2 p.m. Eastern for our coverage of qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series. After that, we will have the Chilango 150 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series at 4 Eastern, and then we'll be back at 7 Eastern tomorrow night for the Pedro Rodriguez 60. That'll be the second and final NASCAR Mexico Series race from here. And then Sunday, we are back for the Viva Mexico 250, the first NASCAR Cup Series points-paying race outside of the United States since 1958. Be sure to join us for NASCAR Live Race Day, which began at 2 p.m. Eastern on Sunday.
Headed to turn 1 right now is Ryan Truex and Christopher Bell.
Truex is subbing for Denny Hamlin. It was not a very good first practice. They are better this time around. He's just going to try and play me in my shadow with Christopher Bell. Right-hand turn 1, left-hand turn 2, then the sweeping right-hand turn number 3 as they empty out onto the short chute on the back straightaway.
Here they come now. Christopher Bell sets up for the entry into corner number 4. That's a long right-hander. It's hard on the brakes. It's right down to the bottom side of the racetrack. So Christopher Bell will navigate accordingly. He's got Ryan Truex behind him, and now it's off to the S's.
Here comes Bell from the left-hand turn 5. Truex about 2.5 car lengths off his rear deck lid. Bell masterfully gets through turns 5, 6, and 7, and he's headed toward turn 8 with Ryan Truex in tow.
Christopher Bell, again, about 3 car lengths now in front of Ryan Truex. Truex has really been struggling through turns 8 and 9 the last several laps. He's really being cautious through that section, and he let Christopher Bell go past him just a moment ago.
Christopher Bell now into turn 11, the only driver consistently going over the red and white rumble strips out the exit at turn number 11 on driver's left. Now creeping on the turn number 12 left-hander, the right-hander in 13 beginning to pull away from Ryan Truex.
And of course, Ryan Truex driving in relief of Denny Hamlin this weekend. Denny's son born earlier in the week. Denny is taking the weekend off, and he has been granted a playoff waiver for the playoffs later this year. And Denny is home with his family. Ryan Truex, a relief driver or standby driver for Joe Gibbs Racing, basically got the MCI long distance call to the bullpen. Well, that's a blast from the past right there. And was tapped into duty. And right now he is behind the wheel of the number 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. From Autodroma Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
As well. Let's see if he does it again. Marty, what are you hearing in the garage?
11 straight laps for Kyle Larson now. Boy, this is going to be an entertaining race on Sunday with as much as these drivers are sliding their cars around. But see, the conversation coming in the weekend was a lot of concern around the engines. That doesn't seem to be much of an issue. Some teams talking about running a little hotter than they would like to, but they are all still talking about brakes. Are you surprised? That's kind of the main topic for these teams. They're trying to keep the brakes under the driver for the whole run.
I'm not surprised because right behind engine temperatures, brake temperatures was the talk of the garage. And we heard Trevor Bayne mention it, some other drivers mention it, that they have not had to manage for years. You had to manage your brakes. That was Dale's job. I mean, if you abuse these brakes, they're not going to last all day. You can just be stubborn or you can work on it. This new car, that went away. It was unnecessary. And now with the elevation, the track, the combination of the two, that art of managing brakes come back to play, which I love. I think it's a skill set. Just challenges the driver. One more thing we'd like to see out of him.
A little bit of tire smoke right there, and that's another thing that we saw a lot in the first practice, and we're still seeing a little bit now.
Back in Mexico City, 5 minutes left in the final practice session for the NASCAR Cup Series as we begin to wind things down. New name atop the leaderboard, Todd Gilliland of Front Row Motorsports has just turned in a 1 minute 33.496 second lap. That's 93.180 mile per hour lap. Ross Chastain, Ty Gibbs, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher. The top 5 with Ryan Preece, Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, and Shane Van Gisbergen rounding out the top 10.
We're down now to under 5 minutes to go in final practice and a final chance to make sure your car is where it needs to be before qualifying tomorrow here on the Motor Racing Network. Again, NASCAR Cup Series qualifying 2 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be back here live with you tomorrow on a perfect, at least forecasted, Saturday afternoon in Mexico City.
Let's check in with Steve Post.
Ross Chastain, you guys just talked about how good he was. Here's the other thing, and one of the things I look at when I look at these scoring, you look at how fast they are, and we talk about 1 lap, 5 lap, 10 lap average, and he's good across the board. Here's the other thing I look at. Ross Chastain has gone as many laps, if not more, than everybody else. He's on 11 lap. When he crosses the line, it'll be lap number 12 for him. So not only do they have a fast race car, but this also signals, and even watching the body language and Phil Surgeon, the crew chief down here, they're very happy with the race car, and now they want to see what they can do over a longer run. They put new tires on. The team's had 3 tires for these practice sessions. They put the latest or the last set on, and he is out there, and as long as he doesn't have any problems, right now the plan is for Ross Chastain to run this thing out to see how he can be all the way to the end of this session and how that car is on a longer run.
So he is one of the better cars across the board from single lap to the averages. Well, Brad Gilly, that yellow, blue, and white Long John Silver's Ford that's just turning into his garage, that is Todd Gilliland. He is right now the fastest of everybody.
Yes, he is. Just turned right in front of me. And to contrast what Steve Post was saying about Ross Chastain running now 12 laps, Todd Gilliland only ran 6 laps in this session. Now, it doesn't look like they're done. I realize that the time and the clock is running down for Todd Gilliland and the rest of the series in this practice, but they're going to work pretty feverishly on it. It looks like they might try and get him back out and maybe put in another lap or 2 if they have time.
We have 2 minutes and 45 seconds to go here in this practice session. One of the cars that really has been displaying speed of late, Alex, is Ty Gibbs. After having that off-course excursion, he has just went back out onto the racetrack, and that car is fast.
Yeah, he has been. And you know, he was pretty good in the opening practice as well, was Ty Gibbs. And they feel like they've got something to work with, and certainly the timing and scoring charts will let us know as well that their car is pretty doggone good. A couple of cars right now getting after it on the front stretch are Daniel Suarez and Alex Bowman. Those two Chevrolet Camaros head off to turn number 1.
Down the front straightaway, separated by 2, maybe 3 car lengths. Daniel Suarez, who's been pretty good all afternoon long. Top 5, top 7, top 8. Talked to Justin Marks just about every week this year, and he says their problem has not been race day. It's been coming off the truck and having to manufacture speed. He said if we can ever come off the lift gate and be fast from the get-go, we're going to be hard to guard. And Kurt Becker, they have done exactly that with all 3 cars.
Absolutely they have, and in fact now the traffic we were just talking about comes back into turn number 4. That's where we find Daniel Suarez and Alex Bowman. They're separated by a couple of car lengths around the right-hand turn 4, smoothly off the corner and headed up the S's.
Daniel Suarez has been smooth all afternoon, particularly here through the S's. He comes off of turn 7, about 5 to 6 car lengths in front of Alex Bowman.
Daniel Suarez, the crowd favorite in the turn number 8, leading Alex Bowman by about 5 car lengths, wiggles his way off of turn number 9, and heads down the straightaway to turn 11.
So while that lap wraps up, let's chat with the gentleman that has put in the fastest lap, Todd Gilliland's with Brad Gilly.
Well, Todd Gilliland, we know you have the fastest car out there right now, but do you have the race car you need to both qualify well and race well on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, probably like a normal race team. We're not always 100% happy, but we've been in the ball game all day today, so that's exactly what we need. Qualifying has been our worst part of the weekend. So yeah, we did a mock run right there. I'm not sure if other guys did or not, but yeah, overall, happy with our execution of practices today and all that. And like I said, we're in the ball game, so I'm excited about it. It makes me feel like we got a shot going into tomorrow and Sunday.
What's the biggest challenge of this racetrack?
Ooh, it's slick. For me, the braking zones have been tough, and it looks like guys I'm around are having a lot of issues as well. Just I see a lot of lockups, a lot of rear lock and sliding, so I didn't see a lot of people very mistake-free out there, and can make for an exciting race, but the braking zones have been tough for us, for me so far.
All right, he's at the top of the board. There's Todd Gilliland.
Todd Gilliland right now is the best as the red and black flags are in the air. Practice for the Viva Mexico 250 is officially over. Todd Gilliland is the fastest. Ross Chastain's second best. These are single lap speeds. Ty Gibbs is third. That is Ford, Chevrolet, Toyota in the top 3. Then Ryan Blaney fourth. Chris Buescher is fifth. Ryan Preece is sixth. Austin Cindric seventh. Joey Logano is eighth. Daniel Suarez ninth. And Shane Van Gisbergen 10th.
Christopher Bell was the 11th of single lap speed, but the fastest on the 10-lap average. 12th right now is Chase Elliott. Brett Keselowski is 13th. 14th goes to Chase Briscoe. Josh Berry was 15th. William Byron 16th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 17th. With Bubba Wallace 18th. Kyle Larson 19th. And Austin Dillon 20th.
A.J. Allmendinger 21st. Eric Jones 22nd. Zane Smith was 23rd. Cole Custer 24th. Michael McDowell was fastest in practice number 1. McDowell 25th. In practice number 2, ran the least amount of laps of anybody here in this second practice, only 6 circuits. Alex Bowman was 26th, Riley Herbst 27th, Kyle Busch 28th, 29th was Carson Hocevar, and 30th Ty Dillon.
31st was Justin Haley. Tyler Reddick was 32nd. John Hunter Nemechek 33rd. Cody Ware 34th. Ryan Truex in relief of Denny Hamlin 35th. And Catherine Legg, the 36th and final car in practice number 2. That's going to wrap up our coverage today from Mexico City. I'd like to thank Dave Moody, Kurt Becker, Dan Hubbard, Tim Catalfamo, Chris Wilner, Steve Post, and Brad Gilly for being a part of the broadcast. For my broadcast partner in the booth, Alex Hayden, I'm Mike Bagley. Thank you so much for spending your Friday evening with us. We will chat with you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time with NASCAR Cup Series qualifying for the Viva Mexico 250. Until then, so long, everybody.
And I'd like to thank MRN Radio and NASCAR on Prime for taking you through The 2 free practice sessions, you will be redirected to the final 2 minutes of the F1 Canadian Free Practice 2. See you there.